Hello, my friends. So today you've drawn the devil to you. So what is that asking you to do? Well, it's asking you to look at the places where you feel trapped. Situations, circumstances, things within you that feel trapped inside of you that are rumbling around, creating havoc. Oftentimes you don't even know what they are. They're old things. They're things that you've swept into the unconscious, the subconscious. There are things that you feel guilty and ashamed about. There are things often connected to sensuality, sexuality, the childhood. There are things connected to what other people have said about you that you should believe or that you should be. And often you haven't met those other people's needs, at least what they say are needs. And you've put that inside of you. You've suppressed that feeling of being bad or wrong or in the wrong place, doing the wrong thing. And you have pushed all these things deep inside of you. And the devil is that holding place. Whether the devil is real or not, that's up for each person to decide. There is definitely, I think, a sense of energy that traps negative thoughts and connects them together with others' energy, and that kind of energy builds. And there is a sense of that evil, that ignorance that sweeps around the world and steps into vulnerable people, often vulnerable people who have not faced their own private demons of feeling less than and feeling shamed of and feeling guilty for. So these things come out in our lower energies. They're the places of ego where we have, run over somebody else or only thought about ourselves. And they're the places of our wants and our repulsions, our wants, often sexual, again, and energies of wants where we have chosen to have the wants be more important often than love for ourselves or for another, and they have controlled us. And also the sense of fear of not surviving. We can go a long ways in a sense of ignorance and evil and keeping ourselves safe by trying to prevent, stop something or someone else who feels like they're possibly going to hurt us, including ourselves. So the ego does not like to be found. The ego is a small I. It's a small sense of self. It's a sense of I exist alone and I have to protect myself at all costs. So in a large sense, the ego is the devil. The ego is the thing that keeps us repressed, it keeps us depressed, it keeps us out of the loop, it keeps us from sharing our love and sharing our truth. It keeps us from really connecting into the spirit world and connecting into the bigger sense of who we are in a major, majestic form. And it says we are limited. We are individual and we are limited, and therefore we must be in pain and cautious and hiding. So the devil is all about those places where we trap ourselves inside and don't look at the pain that we have inside of us. And most of the time that pain are things that can be looked at with light and love and laughter and be called forward and be found to not be so horrendous as we gave them power to do. So the question around the devil is what is coming up for you that can be looked at with love and laughter and light and given some room and given some light. There are also darker things that may not want to come up, and you might need some help with outside shamanic influences or soma teachers to take you in to meet your devil, to meet your darkest side, and to find a way to make it an ally, don't get rid of these things. We keep looking at them through our time and time and time again in our life. But to make these things our allies, where sometimes it is important to lock things out. And it is important to do some of the things that we thought we shouldn't do. But that's each time, that's what each person gets to look at. Also, the sense of the devil is sometimes society has created laws and rigidity that keep us really from being our individual selves and being our unique selves. And a lot of times we have to be a little more devilish. We have to be a little more pan-ish and step out of our rigidity and step out of our normalcy and break some boundaries, do a little more excess, be a little more sexual, be a little more sensual, drink a little bit, smoke a little bit, whatever it is that gets you to be a little more irreverent and a little more breaking down of the society's laws and rules that make you feel combined. So there are times when we need that revel. There are times when you need that pan energy. We need to cavort and we need to dance on the earth. And we need to test and taste these things. So we don't know who we are unless we test and taste these things in a big way over time. And that teaches us compassion and love, endurance, teaches about what we really want to do versus what we don't want to do. Those are all parts of the devil, learning how to dance with ourselves in the pain that we're in a better way. So the devil says, if you're feeling trapped, the pain is probably going to be even larger now and feel more trapping to you once you realize and recognize that you are feeling trapped by yourself or by the outside world, and that you need to change and something needs to change right now, because you can't stand this any longer. You have to break through this entrapment, this chaining. But the thing about the devil is most of this stuff is our choice. We've created choices, we've taken choices, we've picked directions to do this in, to do these things in, and some of that stuff goes back and sits inside of us because we feel like we might have made bad choices. But those are choices, early choices. Those are choices out of ignorance or childishness and growing up and tasting and testing things. And it's time to become an adult to yourself. And it's time to become a healer to yourself. And it's time to be tender to yourself and look at your pains and the things that you've done in a more gentle way, in a more kind way. And honor that you can walk together with this polarity, because you will always walk together with this polarity of, quote, right and wrong, quote, good and bad, quote, pleasure and pain. Those things will be with us, and we're always going to have to look at ourselves in our own moral code and against the societies or doctrines of whatever spirit or religious practices that we are, and make our own sense of who we are. And if we follow some other doctrine sense of who we are, then we get to live with that, and we get to look at that, and we get to look at when we go against that, and what does that mean to our soul as well. So the devil card is really a very wide looking at the things that we have trapped within ourselves by choice often, and the things that we feel trapped by outside of ourselves that we know we can't stand any longer and we need to get rid of in some way or another. So honor the devil, fear the devil, get right with the devil, be yourself, be an individual, look at yourself with grace and love, feel the pain that's inside of you, go deep inside of you to heal the old wounds, because they're lovely and they're loved and there's nothing wrong with you and you are a good person, and we can ride this together in a beautiful way. Blessed be. Ahom Mitakuye Oyasin.